It's 18th of July 25, and it's Friday. I'm just looking again at this Afghan response route thing that the British government have brought in a secret amount of many Afghans over a year and a half or something because someone gave it a list. But I just can't get my head round it really, because the result's going to be that Britain's going to change in a big way, both the short term and forevermore, because of this. I just, I just don't understand. Like any bit of it. Like, did they give out by email? Did they give spreadsheets out with people's names on it? What were they talking about? 25,000 names or something? Uh, what is going on? I just don't understand it. I mean, it seems like incompetence by the Ministry of Defence, or maybe the person meant it. Will we ever know? I don't know. Um, Incompetence there. And then their own government spent like 7 billion in this. I mean, how does it cost 7 billion anyway? I mean, that's more than Keir Starmer was trying to save from the welfare bill and cutting winter fuel allowance. That's 7 billion alone. And here they are spending 7 billion on this and keeping it a secret from the people. And the idea that they were keeping it secret was that lives were at risk. But now somebody's saying that we think we've exaggerated how much their life was really at risk or whatever. And I would also like to know, has anyone died because of it? Because it got released in February 22, but the UK government never found out until August 23 or something. So did anyone die in that time? Or, you know, and someone's saying now that the Taliban probably knew all the time anyway, so, but it was probably, maybe there wasn't a risk to them. And as a result of that, I mean, I saw one guy talking from there. I think he's going to get brought over, and they said his name, and then it said a father of 5. So that's his direct family. He's got 7 coming over if he's got one wife, and then I'm guessing that the family tree will come over as well, including the grandparents or whatever. We never hear about these stories of the grandparents coming over as well, because it's all meant to be, it's all young people and they're helping us with our future. I would like to know, are the grandparents getting brought over as well? Just among one thing, I just can't understand any of it. I guess that it was the Tories that made this decision under Rishi Sunak, and then it was carried on by Keir Starmer, and then I think Keir Starmer made it even bigger or something. But apparently, at the meeting with Keir Starmer was Pat McFadden. And as soon as I hear that name, I think, oh no, he's one of these. I think he's an MP now, but he's been around Labour for years. He's one of these sort of angry trade union types, like John McTiernan or whatever, sort of angry Scottish trade union types. And it's like, visually they're like the opposite of what you're imagining Labour's meant to be. It's like, because people forget, like, Labour is a sort of trade union thing. Angry, out on strike, making shouty speeches and all this. I think Angela Rayner was a good example of that when she was saying in that when she was recorded secretly at a Labour conference, saying that the Tory were all bad people or whatever. And anyway, I asked less key points on this. I just can't understand that at all. This is today, so it's been going on for like 3 days. We heard about it on Tuesday. A High Court judge lifted the super injunction that had prevented any reporting on the data breach. But apparently our own Defence Secretary said something earlier that day anyway, so he already... I don't know. Defence Secretary statement. John Healey, the current Labour Defence Secretary, made an oral statement to Parliament on July 15th, confirming the data breach, the existence of the ARR and the lifting of the injunction. He offered a sincere apology on behalf of the government for the data loss. how many people have got access to this data? You know, is it just floating about? Can you give me that data? 100,000 names, 25,000 names on that secret list? Yeah, here's a spreadsheet. You know, I just don't understand. And they're saying it's closed, and I think he's trying to say it's closed. That's to make us feel better. Oh, thank goodness, that's it. You know, if people think it might have consequences that aren't good, both short and forevermore in Britain. You know, and why is the answer always that everyone has to come to Britain? You know, can you? What about neighbouring countries? Can you not help them to get there or whatever? Um, no one seems to. You would think that people come in this country, the values are so different that they might not want to come. You know, they might find some of the values restrictive or something. I don't know, but the Greens are our biggest supporter. Greens and Labour, you know, the left, and uh, so I don't know how this is going to affect women's rights and LGBTQT plus, but the Greens and Labour think it's going to be a fantastic thing. Um, so I don't know. Invitations to be honoured. Well, no new offers will be made. Approximately 600 invitations had already been extended to individuals and their immediate families. And how close were these people to the, you know, whatever was happening? I don't understand that at all. Thank goodness Restore UK are around, because I think they're saying we need to know everything about this, and why is the answer always to come to Britain, what to be made British citizens, and I think they're actually saying they should be put safely in a third country or whatever. So look out for what Restore UK do. That. I mean, I totally agree with what Robert Lowe thinks, that uh, we should be that our parliament's not fit for purpose, and he actually says that the European Parliament worked better than their own. You know, that's how archaic our own parliament is. Just logistically, you know, just a total mess. I mean, it's Friday. I think all the MPs fly back on Thursday morning, maybe even Wednesday afternoon. Um, and he says here, this is part of the commitment that when this nation makes a promise, we should keep it. Only if the people think it was a promise worth keeping, you know. I personally don't think we should honour it. I'm sure a lot don't. So it's not just that the government were incompetent as well. They seem to do the opposite of what the public want, the British public want. And I still don't know when it's going to stop. It's only going to stop when Reform are the main party. Um, they're still acting, Labour and Tories are still acting as if keep going the same way we've been going, in the same prism, you know. I mean, Reform aren't any much better on this subject, but they're an Overton window shift and they're a protest vote. So everyone should be voting Reform, really, if you feel that. Yes. And I just don't understand, how's it so dear as well? And they find this money out of nowhere. They don't tell anyone. They don't tell, you know, make public record. By the way, we've spent 7 billion. We've got a missing. They're going on about a missing 22 billion, which you don't even know is true. That story that Labour were going on about it. And here we've got a missing 7 billion. Because of a super injunction, none of the MPs are allowed to mention it. But Jacob Rees-Mogg, he said that you could say it in Parliament because you're allowed to say anything there. You're beyond the law. But he didn't anyway. So, and it is ironic that both Tories and Labour were involved in this. Like the Tories started it, Labour kept it going. Um, so yeah, the scheme has cost approximately £400 million to date, with a projected total cost of £850 million for the ARR specifically. Well, where did this £7 billion thing come from then? And of course, all these families, probably forevermore, they're going to keep bringing more relatives through, more family tree across. For some reason, that seems to be the thing. We are allowed to predict that. You know, we can predict how other things are going to behave, but on this we're not allowed to use our common sense or whatever. It seems, you know, why don't they want to move, say, to someone closer to where they are or whatever, you know? But anyway, nobody asks those sort of questions. The overall cost of relocating Afghans to the UK across all schemes, including ARAP and ACRS, is estimated by the government to be between 5.5 billion and 6 billion. So this one alone was meant to be like 850 million. So was arrested not secret? Oh, that's something, isn't it? But at least we get told. I hope. But, and why is it costing so dear? I really don't understand. And not only that, they're getting a bit of compensation as well. Just when they get here, probably they'll do a collective lawsuit as well. I mean, really, all these things, all you need to say is, no, we're not doing it, really. But the public need to stop voting Labour and Tories for that to happen, really. Reason for lifting injunction. It was heavily influenced by an independent review, the Rimmer Review, which concluded that it was unlikely that merely being on the dataset would be grounds for targeting by the Taliban, and that the Taliban likely already possess the key information in the dataset. The review also suggested the secrecy might have inadvertently added more value to the dataset. Exposure of British spies, government justification for secrecy. The previous Conservative government and the Sunak government and the initial Labour government maintained a super injunction due to concerns that public disclosure of the data leak would directly lead the Taliban to acquire and use the data to target individuals for extrajudicial killings or severe mistreatment. I mean, could we not just smuggle them out to a nearby country or some country that we can get to accept them, you know? It seems like places like Qatar, I'm not sure that they accept any. Like this, you know, asylum seekers or whatever. Current guidance for affected individuals. The Ministry of Defence has published guidance. So, yeah, just that. And I just wondered who sent the data set and what happened to them, you know. The personal information of nearly 19,000 Afghans and over 100 British officials was sent by an unnamed Ministry of Defence official. The breach occurred in February 2022. The MOD official mistakenly emailed a spreadsheet containing the sensitive data. I mean, this is a shock to me, you know. What kind of security is this? It's understood that the official believed they were only sending a list of around 150 names to external contacts to help verify information about applications. However, the spreadsheet actually contained 18,714 records of Afghans applying for relocation, along with their names, contact details, and in some cases family information. Purpose of sending mistakenly, the official was trying to verify information about the applications, likely under the pressure of the ongoing efforts related to Afghan resettlement. And the MOD only became aware of the breach in August 23, over a year and a half later, when excerpts of the dataset were anonymously posted on a Facebook group. I mean, had anything happened to any of these people in the meantime? The official responsible for the leak is reportedly still employed by the government, but is no longer doing the same job on the Afghan brief. Defence Secretary John Healey has stated that his first priority was not trying to conduct some sort of witch hunt on the defence official that released the spreadsheet. Well, personally, I want to know everything about them to do with this. So I heard there is some sort of inquiry, and I'm wondering if this inquiry could bring down Labour and the Tories even. It could just be the thing where the public say, look, we've had enough, you know. You've got to think of this country, rather, as Rupert Lowe said today as well, rather than just what's happening over there. We don't even know. It's just so frustrating. So I just looked at the rest of it. I think most of these will know it, maybe. I'm looking at Google Gemini to try and get it in a way I can make sense of it, you know, because you read the papers and that. Well, I don't read the papers, but say the Daily Mail, it just goes on and on. I know they've been trying to lift the junction for like a year and a half or something. But personally, I don't think any should become British citizens from this anyway. So it seems to be our government acts against the British public, really. Um, this secret scheme was created in April 24 to resettle Afghans who were not eligible for ARAP but were at high risk due to the data leak. Approximately 900 applicants and 3,600 family members. So here we go. What's that? So that's 4 family members for each applicant, totaling around 4,500 people. But as the years go by, I presume they're going to bring the rest of their family tree if they want to come. I need to put that caveat in. Use your own judgment, I think. And we don't know. Well, grandparents come as well. So have been brought to the UK under the ARR. A further 600 individuals and their relatives are expected to be relocated, bringing the total under this specific scheme to around 6,900. So that's 1,500 applicants and 5,400 family members. So is that 3 per applicant, or is it 4? I think it's 4, isn't it? Nearly. And it's cost 400 million to date, and it's expected to cost 850 million. But they've always got money for these things. Yes, of course, we've got the money. And there's the full cost of relocating all these Afghans, 6 billion. I mean, I think if you had a vote on it at the time, a referendum vote, because I think we should be direct democracy, I think the public would have said no. So on our behalf, the government have said yes, and it's going to cost 6 billion. He made a sincere apology, the Defence Secretary, to those whose information was compromised. And there's an independent review, I think, of this, but I hope we'll just Restore UK, they're going to have a review as well. A review into the data incident response found it unlikely that merely being on the data set would be grounds for targeting by the Taliban. So after all that, they have a review and it says that they doubt probably none of them were at risk. Yeah, and I just wondered who the politicians were. Well, Ben Wallace was the Defence Secretary in February 22 and he still was in September 23. And it's amazing that Tory members were so naive that they had him down as the next leader. Now he's left politics altogether, I think. He has stated he makes no apology for applying for the initial injunction, insisting it was not a cover-up and was aimed at gaining time and space to deal with this leak and protect those at risk. James Heapy, Armed Forces Minister. There have been conflicting reports about the level of fierce opposition to the scheme from other ministers. Other ministers in the Tory government this is ones that were started work on establishing this scheme or whatever. Primarily Ministry of Defence and Home Office, on the leadership of Sunak, I think. It says here Suella Braverman, but she said she wasn't involved, I don't know. Or maybe she was against it, but she was at the meetings. Robert Jenrick, well, that would be better. There have been reports from Jenrick and corroborated by Braverman's statement of fury at the cover-up and failures. So it's not just that the cover up and their reaction to it. It's just the total incompetence all round from the guy sending or the Ministry of Defence official sending the letter to how they handled it. So it looks like Jenny and Braverman were strongly opposed to plans for the response route in internal meetings. This suggests there was not universal agreement within the government on the approach to the data breach and subsequent resettlement scheme. Labour inherited the scheme and the super injunction when they took office in July 24th. They have since reviewed the situation and lifted the super injunction, well, only this week. I made a mistake there. I was wondering who it was who were actually meant to be coming. Apparently Afghanistan makes up Pashtuns, Tajiks, Hazaras, Uzbeks, other significant groups. I mean, there's lots. And if the British ones maybe disagree about the way Afghanistan's going, or it's going to become an issue for British politicians or whatever, maybe have debates about it in Parliament, maybe MPs elected on the subject. So that was a mistake looking at that. Afghanistan has a long and often turbulent history, and it is amazing to think that before 1979 they were almost going Western to a degree. I mean, there's nothing stopping these countries becoming like Britain, which is what these people coming seem to want. There's nothing stopping it. Any country, there should be no country poor anymore. In fact, there shouldn't be any country poor since World War II, really, I would imagine. Who were the key Labour politicians who decided it should continue? John Healey, Ministry of Defence Minister. Keir Starmer. I read somewhere part before I think it was the Daily Mail or something. There was some sort of group. That's Patty. I just what is he now? Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Minister for Intergovernmental Relations. He is a Member of Parliament. Wolverhampton South East. Okay, that's it really. It's just everything about it is just wrong. The response, how it happened, the sloppiness, incompetence, how it was all done secretly. I don't know. And then it turns out a review says we don't think they were at risk. I mean, this incompetence and wrong decision making and just everything. I mean, our electoral system needs to go because we need something like this was electoral system where we've got direct democracy. We've got a say in issues, because if we had said in 2021 we're not taking anyone from this, then that's that. It's not an option for the elected government, so that's the way people need to go. All you can do now is vote reform at council by-elections as a protest vote. Join UKOV and say you're going to vote reform, and when I ask you what 3 issues are you bothered about, just pick the one issue, which is now at top, finally. I mean, it's been so frustrating seeing things like economy and health being top, because possibly if things get bad here, those sort of things aren't going to matter, so, yeah. Hopefully this could bring Labour down, really. I think they're having a review, maybe 3 reviews, I hope so. I'll ask. I'm not sure they're having one actually. It says calls for further inquiry. Despite the Rimmer review, which is the one they had, many critics, including opposition politicians, blah blah blah, are calling for a broader, more comprehensive, independent inquiry into the entire handling of the Afghan evacuations and resettlement schemes, as well as the data breach itself. They argue that the Rimmer review was focused on the specific question of the injunction and the direct risk from the dataset. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But a wider inquiry is needed to address the systemic failures, accountability, and the long-term impact. Well, they're saying for them. I'm saying for the country, really. Yeah, And I think Restore UK would also need to have a review as well. So I just asked, are they having a review on it? Yes, it has. The Rimmer review, conducted by Paul Rimmer, a former Deputy Chief of Defence Intelligence. It was commissioned by Labour at the beginning of this year, 2025. I wonder why they done it then. Maybe they were thinking, oh, the public aren't going to like this once they find it. Because the big legacy media companies have been trying to get the injunction removed. The review's purpose was to assess the implications of the data leak, particularly regarding the ongoing risk to the affected people from and to inform the decision on whether to lift the super injunction. It concluded that the Taliban likely already possessed the key information in the dataset. It was unlikely that individuals would be targeted simply because of their work for the UK. It suggested that the super injunction itself might have inadvertently added more value to the dataset by signalling its sensitivity and importance. Despite these findings, the review also acknowledged that given the available evidence and the widespread human rights violations, it is not possible to conclude decisively that those individuals affected by the data incident would not face any additional blah blah. Okay, that's enough for now. It's just a total disaster, shambles.